Blair was 32 and had always considered herself a practical woman, organized, reliable, steady. On the morning of her brother Nathan's wedding, everything reflected that precision. Her silver gown hung on the closet door heels, lined up beneath it, her makeup already laid out like a soldier's arsenal. The kitchen smelled faintly of coffee and vanilla candles, and for once everything felt calm. Her husband Eric had left earlier that morning, kissing her on the cheek with a teasing "Don't be late, babe," before vanishing with the car, claiming he had errands to run before meeting her at the venue. She had no reason to question anything. That changed when her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. No name, no photo, just a chilling line: "Do not go to your brother's wedding. Check your husband's garage." Blair stared at it for a moment, confused, then chuckled nervously. A prank, probably. Or someone texting the wrong number. But something about the silence in the house, the absence of the garage fridge's usual hum, sent a prickle down her spine. She reread the message. Once. Twice. Her fingers hovered over the reply button, but she could not bring herself to type. Instead, she tapped the number. No contact info. Nothing familiar. The urge to dismiss it warred with a deeper instinct, one she had learned to ignore over years of trusting the wrong people. She set her phone down and walked down the hallway. The house creaked softly, her heels clicking on the wood like a countdown. She paused at the garage door, her hand resting on the cold handle. With a breath, she turned it. The light was off. The air was wrong, metallic. Not motor oil or dust, but sharp, unfamiliar. The kind of smell that made your stomach clench before your brain caught up. She reached for the switch. The light flickered on. And there, in the center of the garage floor, sat a black duffel bag that had absolutely not been there yesterday. Its zipper was half open, like it had been waiting. Blair stepped forward, unaware that her perfect morning had just shattered, and nothing would ever be the same again. The bag was old scuffed leather, frayed seams, streaked with something that looked like dried mud. Blair stared at it, heart-thudding, as if her body already knew what her mind refused to accept. She crouched down, every instinct screaming not to touch it, but curiosity mixed with dread overpowered reason. The zipper groaned as she opened it the rest of the way. Inside were clothes, women's clothes, torn, stained. Some of them looked unfamiliar, others unmistakably hers. A green silk blouse Eric swore she had lost at the cleaners. A sweater she thought she had left at a hotel. Beneath the fabric was a stack of photographs. Her fingers trembled as she lifted them. There she was pumping gas. There again, walking their dog. Sitting at her desk, asleep in bed, dozens of shots taken from angles she never noticed, moments she never remembered. None of them she had seen before. Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. You still think it's a joke? Her knees buckled slightly. She grabbed the garage wall for balance, cold sweat beating at her temples. Her mind flipped through excuses. This had to be a prank, a sick one, or maybe a mistake. But deep down, she knew. Her hands shook as she typed, "Who are you? Why are you sending me this?" 3 dots appeared. Then, "He's not who you think he is. You have no idea who you married. If you believe no one deserves to discover betrayal like this in their own home, comment yes, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that must be heard." Blair backed away from the bag. The smell in the garage thickened, sharp and metallic like rust and fear. She stumbled inside and slammed the door, her breath-shallow mind racing. The man she shared a bed with, trusted, loved. Was this his secret life? Was her marriage a mask for something far darker than she ever imagined? She did not want to go back into that garage. She really didn't. But she also knew this was not over. That duffel bag was not the end. It was the beginning. And somewhere beneath the lies in the shadows of her once perfect life, a truth waited to destroy everything she thought she knew. Blair stood in the hallway, the door to the garage still rattling faintly behind her. Her fingers gripped the counter as she tried to steady her breath, but her chest felt like it was wrapped in steel wire. Her phone sat on the kitchen island, the last message still glowing on the screen. He's not who you think he is. She had never been the kind of woman who ignored red flags, she thought. But what if love, comfort, and routine had dulled her instincts? She turned her eyes back toward the hallway. Something gnawed at her, an itch she could not ignore. Against every ounce of self-preservation screaming in her skull, she grabbed a flashlight from the junk drawer and retraced her steps, heels now abandoned each bare footstep cold against the wood floor. The garage was quiet again. Too quiet. She clicked the flashlight on. The beam cut through the dimness, sweeping over the floor. Then something caught her eye. A faint, uneven line etched into the concrete. It looked like a seam, partially hidden by dust and oil. Kneeling down, she brushed it with her sleeve, definitely a hidden panel. Her pulse roared in her ears. A trap door. She grabbed a tire iron from the wall and wedged it under the edge. The wood groaned, then cracked. It opened. A staircase descended into darkness. Blair hesitated. Then slowly she began to descend. The air grew colder, with every step thick with a sour, metallic stench, rust mold, and something more sinister. Her flashlight wavered, revealing a cement bunker beneath her home. The walls were covered in photos, dozens of them, taped like trophies. Women, different ages, backgrounds, all of them photographed from a distance, some smiling, others sleeping. A few looked terrified, caught in the exact moment they realized they were being watched. Then Blair saw her. Zoe, her best friend. Smiling in one photo at a cafe. Crying in another, her eyes red and empty. Blair gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Zoe had vanished a year ago. No trace. The police said she probably ran away. But now, staring at the wall, Blair knew better. Eric had lied. About everything. And the worst part, a sound behind her, soft, deliberate. She spun around. A shadow blocked the light from above. Eric. Calm. Watching. "You weren't supposed to see this," he said. ChatGPT Janoi. Blair's heart nearly stopped as she stared into Eric's eyes. He stood at the top of the stairs, silhouetted by the garage light behind him. The same familiar man she had shared dinners with. Vacations, Sunday mornings. Only now he felt like a stranger wearing her husband's skin. "You weren't supposed to see this," he said, voice calm, like he was commenting on the weather. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her body remained frozen in place. Eric took one slow step downward. "I told you I had errands. Really, I was cleaning up just in case of what she wanted to ask, but her throat closed up. Then his hand reached into his pocket, and he pulled something out. A keychain. Zoe's. The tiny owl charm Blair had gifted her on her last birthday. Blair stumbled back, flashlight shaking. "You lied to me," she whispered. Eric's expression shifted, almost sad. "I never hurt you, did I?" Before she could answer, she turned and bolted, her feet pounding up the stairs. She flung the door open and slammed it behind her, locking it, sliding to the floor, breath catching in her chest. Her hands shook as she grabbed her phone. She did not call the police. She dialed the only person she could trust, Daniel. They had worked together briefly years ago, and Eric never liked him, said he was paranoid. But Daniel picked up on the first ring. His voice was low, tense, like he had been expecting her. "You saw it, didn't you?" he said. She could barely speak. He took Zoe." There was a long silence. Then, "Meet me. I'll explain everything." Later that night, in a rundown cafe, lit by flickering fluorescent lights, Daniel revealed the horrifying truth. Eric had once worked in a surveillance firm. His job was to study patterns, monitor behavior. But he had gone freelance off the grid, weaponizing those skills. Daniel had tried to expose him, but no one believed him. Eric had covered his tracks too well. "I sent the message," Daniel admitted. "I needed you to see it with your own eyes." Blair stared at him, hands clenched. "So what now?" Daniel leaned in, eyes sharp. "Now we find where he's keeping them. And we end this." The forest was suffocating in its silence. Blair and Daniel had followed the trail to a crumbling old cabin buried deep in the pines, hours from the city. No lights, no sound but tire tracks in the mud, said someone had been there recently, too recently. Blair's hands clenched around the flashlight and taser as they circled the building. Every step felt like moving through a nightmare with open eyes. At the back, half hidden beneath vines, was a cellar door. Daniel pried it open, revealing a steep staircase descending into darkness. The smell hit instantly rot mildew and something faintly chemical. The stairs creaked beneath their weight as they slipped underground. The basement was a bunker, steel doors, concrete walls, and a narrow hallway that led to a small surveillance room still glowing with dim monitors. Daniel began copying files from the hard drives while Blair scanned the live feeds. Her breath caught. There on one screen, Zoe. Alive. Weak. Sitting on a cot in a room labeled Room 3. Blair whispered her name like a prayer. Daniel picked the lock within seconds, and the door swung open. Zoe looked up, blinking. Thin. Pale. Haunted. Recognition bloomed in her eyes, followed by tears. You came, she whispered. Blair rushed to her, holding her like a broken wing. We're getting you out, she said. They barely made it back to the hallway when a voice echoed through the concrete. You just couldn't leave it alone. Eric, calm, standing at the end of the corridor, gun in hand, like nothing had ever happened. You lied to me, Blair said, stepping between him and Zoe. For years. Eric looked at her like he pitied her. They needed structure. I gave them purpose. Blair's stomach turned, but she kept him talking. Just long enough. Daniel moved fast. One clean shot from the taser hit Eric square in the chest. He crumpled, twitching. Blair kicked the gun away and zip-tied his hands, trembling but focused. As sirens wailed in the distance, Zoe clung to Blair. I thought I'd never see the sky again, she said through tears. Blair looked at Eric's unconscious form. You will, and so will every woman he tried to bury. The courtroom was packed, but the silence inside felt heavier than the walls themselves. Blair sat in the front row beside Zoe, whose pale fingers gripped hers like a lifeline. Eric sat just feet away, no longer the confident man who used to charm everyone at dinner parties. Dressed in an orange jumpsuit, he looked small, hollow, like someone who had spent his life wearing a costume and was finally stripped of it. The prosecution played the footage. Blair and Daniel had recovered videos of women locked in rooms, audio of Eric's twisted monologues about control, purpose, and power. Each clip landed like a hammer in the hearts of everyone watching. The audience's expressions shifted from disbelief to horror to rage. Blair took the stand last. She told the truth in a voice steadier than she thought possible about the text message, the duffel bag, the hidden basement, and the moment she realized her entire marriage had been a lie. He didn't just hide things from me, she said. He hunted people while I slept beside him. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Eric was found guilty on all counts: kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, digital surveillance, and conspiracy. He was sentenced to multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. But Blair's story did not end with the verdict. In the weeks that followed, Daniel cracked open encrypted files they had not even known existed, records Eric had hidden in deep storage. Dozens more victims. Some rescued, some never found. Blair felt the weight of them, every name, every face, like stones in her pocket. She launched a foundation in Zoe's name, offering support for victims of stalkers, surveillance abuse, and psychological captivity. She gave interviews, spoke at conferences, trained law enforcement in digital safety and emotional coercion. Zoe moved in with her for a while. Some nights, they sat in silence, sipping tea, the ghosts still close, but fading. Other nights, Zoe laughed, tentative, soft, real. Daniel stayed in touch, always in the background, never asking for thanks. He was not a hero. He was a survivor, too. So was Blair. But just when it felt like life was settling, like justice had closed the chapter, a letter arrived at Blair's door. No return address. Inside a single typed line, "You only caught the face of it. The body remains." Blair stared at the words and knew this story was not over. Blair had started to believe the storm was over. Eric was behind bars, the media frenzy had died down, and Zoe was slowly returning to herself, painting again, laughing softly, eating full meals without flinching at every sound. Blair moved to a quiet coastal neighborhood, took a remote job in digital security, and even began writing about strength recovery, what survival looked like after the fire. But peace, she learned, could be deceptive. One morning, a letter appeared at her door. No postage, no handwriting, just one line typed on a cheap printer. You think it's over. It never is. Check the attic. Blair's blood ran cold. Daniel drove in that same day. Together they found a live camera tucked in the shadows of her attic, recording her even now. It was not Eric's. It was newer. Someone else was watching. The memory card led them to encrypted networks, dark web message boards, and fragments of a chilling truth: Eric was not acting alone. He had been part of a larger system, a syndicate that watched, tracked, collected. Blair was no longer prey. She was a threat. And she had their attention now. She looked Daniel in the eye and said, "Then let them watch me burn it down. If this story shook you, if you believe the truth should never be buried, and silence is the predator's greatest weapon, comment I'm not afraid and share this story. Because Blair's fight isn't over, and maybe neither is yours."